confidence in the things that I know. I have enough wisdom to see the logic will be shown. I got one chance to show you what I got. I got one chance to show I'm confident or not. Self-evident reason, deductions and conclusions, and the fools are running away. It's not what you say, it's only what you can prove. You better watch your step, you better mind your P's and Q's. You got one chance, show me what you got. You got one chance, show you confident or not. Don't get caught in the matrix of all of these fakers. Society's spinning, and I'm just here living on the ground. Self-evident reason, deductions and conclusions, logically thinking, and the fools are running away. You're flipping over backwards to show me where you think you are. Your model dictates that you never see too far. Shrinking in the distance, you can do fuck all with an angle, and the fools are running away.
And we are live. Welcome everyone. It's it's Monday, isn't it? I don't know really what we're doing today. Again, I'm still not got my kitchen back, so I'm not really trying anything to sort anything. And there's some weird shit going on, but when isn't there some weird shit going on? We've had a few conversations over the last few weeks. I'm still having conversations now with people, but I mean, I think they've changed. The type of conversations changed, and I don't know. The conversations we have are conversations within the Discord server, and it seems as though we've been going around too long on our own. And it seems a little bit difficult to try and explain where we are, what we're doing, and all of that sort of stuff. So I think the conversations that we have been having are gonna stop really. The type of conversations we will be having will be the conversations between us here, and if anybody wants to listen to them or whatever, it doesn't really matter. But there won't be as much ridiculous arguing for whatever purposes. I want to have real conversations with real people.
Yeah, no circular arguments.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever had any proper conversations for years, to be honest. I mean, we have actually within this server, and I've said most of the times, the conversations that we do have I don't want to put them out as live conversations because they're real conversations. That happens more in the Discord server than, you know, outside of it. And I don't want to be making people into YouTube stars. I think it's stars. But yeah, some of the conversations that we have, well, let's put it this way, that we basically have the proof and we have everything to go along with the proofs. People can come into the Discord whenever they want to come and have those conversations. Not many people do, and not many people want to open their mouth and speak. Like tonight, we're on a live show. Well, nobody really wants to talk on the live shows, so most of the conversation does actually happen within the Discord. We've had some amazing conversations just recently.
Yeah, I have a lot to say since I'm stuck at work. You know how it is.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, that's it. The conversations that we have, you know, they're real conversations. That's not something most people want to put out on YouTube. However, what we are getting to at the minute is we're getting to the bottom of, I think, of what's been going on within this arena. Now, people obviously love the arena. They love the battle. But when you look, and you can see that it's the same people. And there's not many of them. They don't allow new people to come in. They stifle conversations whenever they can. And not just here. They'll stifle conversations wherever. Somebody puts a video out, all of these trolls will be on it telling everybody it's rubbish, it's horrible, it doesn't make it, and it doesn't do anything. If you try and go and have a conversation with people on social media, these people will follow you everywhere. They don't want conversations to happen. Whereas we do. I love conversations. And I love just talking to people. Now, people have this idea that when we have a conversation, we're sort of trying to tell people that they're wrong or whatever. No, that's just not true. Conversations are meant to be a backwards and forwards where both can learn. Call it a dialectic, where you come to an agreement about a conversation or whatever. Well, I don't know how to say this. The conversations that we've had and within this arena over the last 4, 5, it must be going on 5 years now. Like actual conversations. I'm not talking about text chatting or doing all of that. I'm talking about real conversations, talking to people, backwards and forwards, real conversations. Well, they happen in Discord. It's not very often that you guys in this get to hear the really good conversations, because well, they're between us. I think I class them as being personal conversations. So I don't like to put those conversations out. Mainly because I don't know. I think they're learning, and what happens is if you put too much of a conversation out, then this network of naysayers or contradictory agents just like to come and say no, not that, which puts people off. And like, for instance, let's take it for instance, Saragaki's with us now. Saragaki brought us a mathematical proof. People keep saying we're flat earthers. We're not flat earthers. So when a mathematician comes and gives us a mathematical proof, then does that make it a flat earth proof? And it's like, no, it doesn't. We're not flat earthers. Saragaki's not a flat earther. The maths that he's brought us isn't flat earth math. There's no such thing. Yet there is a person on YouTube called Flat Earth Math that takes and looks at this mathematical proof and says it is flat earth. The person that wrote the mathematical proof is a flat earther. Now, call it slander, call it libel, call it whatever you want. But labelling mathematical proofs as flat earth is ridiculous. And I don't know where the conversation's meant to go, because it definitely isn't a flat earth proof. You can't prove flat earth. So relating these mathematical proofs to flat earth just diminishes what the mathematical proofs are to start off with. Counterproductive people, I suppose so. They just don't want to they don't want to come in and have the conversation, because I don't believe that they can engage in argumentation. I don't think they can take part in a logical structure of anything. And when I say, you know, people within this arena, I'm talking about people like Nathan Oakley, QE, Arwin. I've been watching, who else have I been watching? Been watching Flatsoid. Now that seems more counterproductive than anything at the minute. It's ridiculous. Obviously, you've got people like Blue Marble Science and Flat Earth Math, Rumpus. I don't know who else is there. What's that guy? The one that's not a doctor. What used to be Bob. Bob. What's he called now? Research Flat Moon. Bob. The one that used to be a doctor. He used to be a man of science as well, but seems like not anymore. Mr. Cheswick, good day. Yeah, it's getting ridiculous. People fighting people for no apparent reason. Mainly because I think that you can sense that the flat earth is ridiculous, right? Made more so ridiculous for people like Nathan Oakley. Flatsoid. Who else? Yeah, ridiculous. And then they have to engage in this stupid bickering between, well, everyone. It seems like anybody in this arena has to argue and disagree with everybody else. There can be no agreement coming to. And we're after a conversation where you can productively build upon conversation. You can actually learn. I don't believe there's ever been any learning gone on in the past 3-4 years. I've never seen any. I've seen people cheat, lie, fool people, all within a ridiculous arena where they need people to make ridiculous arguments so a certain other group of people can then argue against them, and then they can all pretend that they're arguing with each other. Everyone can pretend they've won whatever argument it is. Makes no difference. They'll wake up and do exactly the same thing tomorrow. There's nothing new. Well, there is something new. There's a very interesting new conversation that's coming around, but it's being shut down again. People like Nathan Oakley and Flatsoid are stifling a conversation that has probably been running for thousands of years. It's never, well, I'm hoping it is going to get to see the light. the actual conversation. We practiced something the other day, having a conversation around a developed Jabberwocky that our friend Flat Earth Math, when I say friend, you know, he's developed this concept from one of his friends. His friends brought in a perpendicular argument. It's called Beddy. We call him the proofless dogmatician, for the blue marble science proofless dogmatician. And he's come in with this perpendicular argument, but he's added things that aren't even lines to this argument, and that's caused confusion. But really what happens is we have this idea, this concept that there's an argument that needs to be had. Beddy's brought a perpendicular argument in. He's brought latitude and longitude, which don't belong in a perpendicular argument. But that's caused question. What about things that do belong in the perpendicular argument? Namely, vertical and horizontal. Because they are perpendicular. But Beddy's perpendicular argument states that if two lines are perpendicular to another line, then they will be parallel to each other. Which sort of means that if two horizontals were perpendicular to a vertical, then those horizontals are parallel. Our friend Flat Earth Math doesn't like the idea of this perpendicularity providing, well, necessarily providing parallels. It's just a geometric thing, right? I mean, it gives us the basis of understanding what a square is. But some people, namely Flat Earth Math and every other dogmatic globe believer, has to go along with this. I call it breaking the laws of mathematics. So that's been exposed just recently. Now, of course, nobody's going to have that conversation. Why would they? It's a really tricky position that Beddy's placed anybody in. You cannot engage in a conversation regarding mathematical arguments in reality, because these people have severed the tie between mathematical proofs and reality. It's took us a while. I mean, it has been there all the time. Most of this sort of stuff is so simple, it's right in your face. But you can't see it for some reason. There's some sort of a block that stops you from seeing how simple this sort of stuff is. How simple the arguments are. Eric said Charles has lost his mind. That guy said so many ridiculous statements on Friday. Well, yeah, he's the most contradictory person I think I know. There's so many conversations that we can have, but I mean, when you think about it, who is he? It's just one guy. He's called Flat Earth Math. How seriously do you want to take him? It's ridiculous. And for him to pretend, or not to pretend, he says he's a school teacher. It's a school teacher called Flat Earth Math that says completely contradictory statements about mathematics in reality. Yeah, there you go. That's with that. His latest comment to us is in the chat there. perpendicular proofs within reality don't exist, says Flat Earth Math. He says that they don't exist in reality. So those mathematical proofs, can't relate them to reality, says a guy called Flat Earth Math. I mean, how seriously do you want to take people? I've been on Twitter recently, again. Same people that were there 5-6 years ago. Same arguments. There's nothing new. Nothing's changed. Nobody's gone anywhere. Nobody's doing anything new. Well, say nobody's doing anything new. We've always been separated from the ridiculous. Yeah, we've been talking to ridiculous people. They wanted to come over here and test their mettle against us. Each time that they've been, they went away crying. They don't bother coming round anymore. Only the ones that want to come for a nutsacking. They want to go mad. And I feel guilty, really, because those ones that do come round here and talk to us do end up going insane. Because they try and relate their dogmatic model to reality. And when they realise they come up short, they have to leave a logical system and entertain contradictions within their logical structure, their internal logical structure. They go mad. We've got a guy at the minute called Flat Earth Charles. Flat Earth Charles. He thinks he can do flat earth mathematics. And he thinks he can relate that to his reality. Well, he's in for a shock. As are a lot of people, but they're just delusional. They can't help it. If any of these guys actually listening, or maybe you're getting triggered or whatever, it's Monday. Anybody can come in and have a chat with us. We can go over these sort of things. No. Well, Mr. Obvious is a school teacher too. Nice. We're getting a lot of school teachers. No, I said nutsacking. Nutsacking is it goes back to our friend George and the way George showed us that you can place your mind within a dogmatic model and become transfixed on this model to the point where you end up having to deny proofs within reality in order to keep hold of this dogmatic model. It's obviously not good. It doesn't ever help you. You know, to keep, you end up going mad. There's no way around it. And coming in talking to us, I think is the start of it. If you hold on to this dogmatic model that you've obviously been given, but you've not been given it through the school system. You've been given it through social media. You've been accustomed to this argument and these types of arguments that I don't consider them as actual arguments. We do have actual arguments, and these arguments, you can be walked through them step by step, and they're not difficult. It's just, who do you have these conversations with afterwards? Well, this server, this Discord server, I'd say is the only place you can actually have these types of conversations without them turning into a shouting match or without them being deflected into conversations that aren't. Yeah, you can't deny the facts. Well, some people have the ability to actually do that. They do. It's just not real, though. That your mind can't live in reality and deny these facts of reality. He's away at the minute doing a mental health video. That's what he said anyway. I hope he does get some help. I don't think it's not making videos can't be that cathartic to get rid of these I don't know what they're called. I don't know what to call them. Phantoms. Demons. Hey, gods, thank you very much. You get some memberships in. Thank you very much, gods. If you click the link. Oh, is that everyone? Everyone's got the memberships. Thank you very much. They're all gone. They went quick. So if anybody does want to come in and have a conversation, it's a free-for-all. It's Model Affliction Monday. But what I want to be doing is getting away from this Model Affliction. I'm going to start doing shorter videos. There's a series of videos I want to be doing. I think there's about a time coming soon that I'm going to have to put some stuff together to expose flat earth math, because I think it's ridiculous. The idea that people can think there's mathematics, that people do in school, and then there's another mathematics called flat earth math. Now, I've had PhD Tony tell me about this flat earth math. There's a guy who's got a YouTube channel dedicated to it. But yeah, it's madness, isn't it? It's about time we started moving on and started having the conversations that we should be having. But in order for us to have those conversations, we need to find the people that are capable of having those conversations. So if you think that's you, if you think you've got a story that you want to, well, I don't know, whether your story where you want to tell us about, make it interesting. Come on over. I'm going to try and do some podcast type things where we go over some conversations. Obviously we're going to be doing some of these Plato readings, because there's so much that can actually be learned from these old plays. It's how everybody used to communicate, and for an arena that we are in that is supposedly about communication, it seems like there's not many people that can communicate. I know that there's a load of people that are out there that, say that we can't communicate, we can't talk, we're always lying and all of that, but all you've got to do is just come in and have a conversation, and you may get triggered. You probably will be tested. And some of the stuff that we do talk about does really trigger people in some of the strangest ways. So I'd say, if you're the sort of person that doesn't like to be tested, then rather than get angry with us, just switch off. Go and watch something else. If you don't like challenging yourself, this isn't really the place for you. If you don't like learning new argumentation, new styles, new approaches to conversations, then this obviously isn't for you. If you've got used to all of the old circular arguments, and If you say this, and then I say this, and then you say that, and then we swap to a different subject. If that's what you want, there's other channels. There's loads of other places to do that. What we do here is we do actual, real argumentation, and to the point where we try and perfect the argument. We try and learn from these conversations. It's not about winning. It never has been. There is no competition here. This is about learning and about communicating and challenging each other. Challenging each other's ideas, what they know, finding out better ways to gain knowledge. What is gaining knowledge? How do you do it?
How do you know you have it when you think you've gained it?
Yeah.
It's another good one.
Yeah, I was listening to a little bit of a video earlier, and Wittgenstein taking his a lot of stuff from Timaeus. Was it Timaeus? Theaetetus. It said he's done his thing on words and how you derive your knowledge from the use of words. That'd be quite interesting for us to go into, because that's where we should start off, really, from the law of identity for the structure based around the words. And obviously we know how important the words are. If you don't have the words, you can't really structure anything together. Even in the minute, as we're going through things, there are still some things that don't have words. We don't know how to express them because the words just aren't there for us yet. And they do come around. We can find these words, but it needs communication. It can't just be done on your own, I don't think. And as in most of the time within the conversation and the structure of conversations within this particular arena, it gets people frustrated more than anything. And if you're frustrated, then it's not going to be a free-flowing conversation. Which is what we're after. We're after conversations that do lead to new places. For instance, with this weekend, we had a conversation that led from Beddy talking about his perpendicular proof, led to a guy called Flat Earth Math. I know, ridiculous. But he then took that argument from Beddy's perpendicular, and he turned it into a Jabberwocky. He made himself a Jabberwocky based on that very statement of this perpendicular argument, which then gave us the chance to go and see how many other people have these Jabberwockies. You know, how many people can take these simple arguments and turn them into Jabberwockies to fear, rather than to learn from mathematical proofs or actual arguments. What they do is they turn them into these Jabberwockies, and the conversation about that was interesting. And yeah, I'm not too sure how to explain it. It's one of those ones that you have to be experienced within the conversation. You can't really explain it. But you'll know when you hear it. There'll be quite a few people that don't want to hear these sort of conversations. But the confusion and the nonsense that comes around from this is born of people like Flat Earth Math. I mean, if you want to confuse people, then I think, is there anybody more confusing or more able to confuse anybody? When, like I've been saying for years, I mean, there are some flat earthers that come around here, yeah? I mean, we talk to loads of people, but I'm not a flat earther. But when you get people like Flat Earth Math coming around, saying that mathematical proofs in reality make you a flat earther. If you want to bring a mathematical proof and bring it into reality involving horizontal and vertical, then according to Flat Earth Math, you're a flat earther. And he'll probably say, I didn't say that. It's like, but he did. He literally said that. He's accused somebody of bringing a mathematical proof and tying it to vertical and horizontal, which are perpendicular, and he then calls people flat earthers because of it. Now, if you've got somebody doing that at the heart of the conversation, who's meant to know what's what? If that isn't convoluting the situation, what is? Crazy people in a crazy arena seems to be filled with fools and people who are scared. They're literally frightened, I think. They're frightened of losing their model, this dogmatic model that they have. They're scared of even talking about it now. We've got them in such a state. Nobody really wants to come and have a conversation about any model that they hold. Because I think people hold too many contradictions. I would say, I think everybody holds contradictions that they don't realise. And we should be adult enough to be able to talk about these. But because it's adults we're talking to, they don't seem to take it too well. Imagine getting to a certain age and not being able to hear somebody give you a puzzle. You claim to be a mathematician, but not be able to solve any of those mathematical problems in reality. Rumpus saying stupid shit that he says over and over and over again, and everybody knows that he's a liar because he can post diagrams and pictures in the chat whenever they want. Just Rumpus is scared to come in. You noticed he waited until we did say about these group of people that are scared to approach mathematical proofs in reality. It's because I think his flat earth mathematics leader has made these arguments, and he obviously can't come and support him because Rumpus has got some sort of a problem with his a mathematical guru, Flat Earth Math, that he can't correct him or anything. And obviously Rumpus would have to go along with the mathematical proof. Two straight lines perpendicular to another straight line that will be parallel to each other. Rumpus just lies about stuff, and I think everybody knows that now. We leave your comments up there, Rumpus, so everyone can see how you are just lying. You can see there's pictures, there's diagrams that go up in the chat all the time.
Yes, but suddenly he is now talking about presentation, so not diagrams.
Well, has he got a presentation to do?
I don't think so.
Well, nobody censors presentations. If people want to come in and do a presentation, let us know. Betty does. People have done presentations here. Nobody stops anybody from doing that. Obviously, everybody knows that Rumpus is just a little bitch. Just moaning and crying in the chat. I don't know why he's here, hanging around. He's a nobody. Do you remember when Rumpus was somebody? He used to do something. In fact, what did he used to do? He used to go on Nathan Oakley's, didn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
At some time, yes. Back in the day, let's say.
Yeah, Rumpus, he's done. He's going like Charles. Charles has told him that if two lines are perpendicular to another line, then they're not parallel. So Rumpus is just sort of repeating it. Flat Earth math, like a good lapdog you are, Rumpus. We get that one. I'll put it up there. This is where you got the order from, Rumpus. That one. Perpendicular proofs within reality don't exist. It looks like Rumpus has actually got the memo from the top man. So quite rightly, Flat Earth Math has told Rumpus that the mathematical proofs don't relate to reality. So don't try and use any perpendiculars from reality within the Betty's logic proof. I'd say to thank you to Betty, because it was Betty that exposed this. Betty brought the perpendicular argument so he could let us know that there are a group of people that deny these perpendicular arguments in reality, which might seem very strange, because an argument and a proof has to be demonstrated, and you can't really demonstrate it if it's not in reality. In order for it to be demonstrated, it needs to be demonstrable in reality. In fact, that's one of the only places these things can be demonstrated. And like Saragaki's got a proof there, that's a demonstration. And Rumpus says, no, you can't. You can't do that in reality. But Saragaki obviously has done it already. It's already there. It's been done. But Rumpus says you can't for some reason. He says that's wrong. Mathematical proof. Because Flat Earth Math has said it. And Rumpus has to go along with Flat Earth Math. In fact, I think they all have to now. Because he said it. It's one of these things that when somebody in the team says it, everybody else has to go along with it, the same sort of thing. He seems to think that Flat Earth Charles is a newcomer, but Flat Earth Charles says he's been here for years. He said he was here before you, Rumpus. He said he was the math guy, and you've just decided to come along and pretend you're the math guy. But I mean, that's not right. Maybe it's like Flat Earth Math and Flatzoid and Dell and Nathan Oakley. Rumpus just wants to generate his own sort of thing. Rumpus, blue marble science, and flat earth math. Similar to Nathan Oakley, Flatsoid, and Dell. No, that's a bit unfair. I don't really think Dell's like that. I don't know. Yet to see. We'll have a conversation about it. See whether we can have a chat about some things. But the way people try and put division into it, like, of course, it's easy for us. We can just stand at the side and watch. Say, look, flat earth math and rumpus and obviously blue marble science. These are like a tripod. 3 different legs to the same thing. And they need each other. Flat earth math needs rumpus, and rumpus needs blue marble science. They all fit together, but they're always arguing. They're always contradicting each other. It's the way it goes, really. And they're really going hot for it tonight, this perpendicular proof. Denying mathematical proofs in reality with the blue marble scientists and obviously and flat earth math. And Rumpus is a cheerleader. That's good, isn't it? You imagine that. Just picture that now, right? You've got flat earth math, the leader of the mathematics, and you've got blue marble science, obviously the leader in the science, and you've got in the middle a little pom-pom waving Rumpus. And his band of people that either disagree or agree with people on either side. Doesn't really matter.
Oh, Rumpus is accusing flat earth math. Not good.
Well,
But
no,
by
he's
the way,
always done. Now, you've got to contradict it. If they don't have a contradictory model, I mean, if flat earth math can contradict himself, why can't Rumpus contradict him as well? You can't have a dogmatic model without contradictions.
yeah, for example, straight line. He's talking about diagrams, but he cannot recognize straight line.
He doesn't. They don't think that these straight lines work in reality. Did you hear the flat Earth math that he said? I can't remember which way he said this. Around. Let me try. In fact, has anyone got the statement? It's probably been posted quite a few times. Where he has, that's the one. Vertical is not perpendicular to horizontal, but horizontal is guaranteed to be perpendicular to vertical.
Yes, we went through that. Yes, this is just affirming antecedent and denying consequent, and vice versa, because they are mutually exchangeable.
Yeah.
So
then that statement doesn't make any sense.
Well,
yes,
that's what Rumpus is backing, Charles, and Blue as well. So all 3 of them are together on this. I don't even know what you'd call that. It's a contradictory statement, but to contradict a perpendicular statement, to say that yes, one of the lines is perpendicular to the other one, but it's not reciprocated.
Yes, it's like saying that A is perpendicular to B, but B is not perpendicular to A. This is just nonsense.
Oh, he's trying to bring Larry into it as well. It's sad, Rumpus. Well, we know you've just denied a perpendicular proof that Betty brought round here. said it was, well, what did he call it whenever he initially saw it? Infallible, was it? I can't quite remember. Unimpeachable, that was it. In first, it was unimpeachable, but now everybody's been willing to give it up, and that only took a year. Can you imagine what sort of a state we're going to be in 1 year's time? Literally, you can't have you won't be able to have a conversation with them because you won't know whether you've started or you've finished, or whether forwards is backwards. That contradictory. Literally, no ability to be able to communicate. Like Rumpus says, he can't post pictures. Well, of course he can. He's got no presentations to present. He's been pretending to do a test. I mean, he did go down to Bedford. We did actually see him there. So he has been to Bedford. What he did there, not so sure. He put a bendy pole up in the air. I think that was all he did. And then he said that he's got some sort of I don't know, it's a ridiculous thing. Nobody actually knows what he's doing. He's never told anybody what he's doing. And I think he's never told anybody what he's doing because he doesn't know what he's doing. This group of people that we're dealing with have no clue about anything. Whereas us, on the other hand, have got a very clear understanding of what we're doing. We've got tests, loads of tests. The weather's not really helping us out this year. But believe us, we will be going out there and showing people the stuff. I mean, we've already got loads of stuff to show people. And we've been compiling quite a lot of things together to go and have conversations. So that's the bit that's coming up soon. And I'm going to be going out and having a conversation with as many people as possible. So if anybody is listening and you wanted to come and have a chat, you want me to come and have a chat, you want to find out what we're talking about, what we're going over, easy. Just let us know. We'll come and have a chat whenever, providing I can get the time to do it, of course. Yeah, we've got the Jabberwocky, which is an amazing new conversation that Flat Earth Math has brought us into. The concept of the Jabberwocky is something that really needs to be talked over. It's still in the concepts of us attempting to generate a conversation around it. So if anybody wants to come in, ask some questions, let us try this new method conversation out. I'd be glad to have a conversation with anyone, especially people like Godzilla. We want people like that to come on in, have a conversation. Don't worry about what you think might be happening.
Rumpus is trying to address Charles, but he does not realize that he's making fallacious statement. He's saying what Charles is trying to say in his idiotic way is that vertical is the cause, strange, of the orientation because of gravity. But if you have a horizontal at a point, then you will know the vertical. This is fallacious because vertical is not the cause of orientation, because vertical is orientation. Orientation is not cause of itself. So this is just Rumpus logic.
Well, I mean, if he had the ability to explain it, obviously he'd be in here doing it, but he has no rhetoric. Just like conversation that means nothing. Statements. I mean, anybody can write down a contradictory statement in a text chat somewhere.
Yes, but this text is supposedly correction of idiotic flat Earth math statement. So
it's a contradiction of a contradiction, and thinking he can sort it.
Just funny. So he's making another fallacious statement to correct supposedly flat Earth math. So this is funny.
Rumpus relating it to young boys again. That's weird, that, Rumpus. Why are you thinking of young boys? Do you always relate mathematics to young boys, Rumpus? Or very strange. Oh, yes, that's right, Rumpus. When Rumpus gets round to doing the thing that he's going to do with SE, the one that he's been doing for a few years. How's your, how's Thinky, Bedford? Yeah, have you been there yet, Rumpus? Have you, found your poles in the lockup? They might have got a bit of woodworm in them. You never know. In fact, we all know that you're not going to be going back there, Rumpus. It's a poor do. It's a poor do, and everybody life gets in the way, yeah, and we know the bad weather. But we also know, Rumpus, that you can't get enough people together. You're a horrible person, and there's nobody that's going to help you do whatever it was that you wanted to imagine that you were going to do. You have no friends to help you out. That doesn't make any sense, Rumpus. Nobody wants to know everything about everything anyway, so we just stick to our specialist subjects, of which you claim to be an expert on everything, which everybody knows the minute you say that is a blatant lie. But everybody knows that. Just a typical blue marble scientist. Lies, contradicts themselves, comes up with excuses to not do things, and then cries like a little girl when he doesn't get his way. Typical blue marble scientists. You know what they're like. Very touchy. They get really upset about this other group of people, the flat earth mathematicians, who they have a guy who represents them, who's a friend of Rumpus and blue marble science. In fact, blue marble science and Rumpus and flat earth math have quite a few friends. One of them's called Flat Earth Dogma. They've got another one called Flat Earth Pilot. He came on Twitter again the other day. I don't know why he decided to pop his head up again. So there's a, I think they have more flat earth friends than I do, to be honest. Like we say, anybody wants to come over, come and have a chat. Discord's open to everyone and anyone. And as everybody knows, one of these places that you might not be able to speak up. It may take you a while to actually open your mic and say something. But fair enough. Come in and listen. You'll get an idea of what we're like. we do get a bit of a bad rap whenever you hear people like Rumpus and Blue Marble and Flat Earth Math making videos and talking shit about it. But if you really want to experience it, just come on in, have a conversation. You'll soon find out what a conversation's like. I mean, some of the conversations will definitely be challenging. And there will be a definite warning going out when we have these conversations, especially these one-on-ones, because they're a little bit more personal and people get more involved in them. They're more dialectic, much more personal conversations. That's why I don't really like putting them out, because some people do get affected by them. Yeah, Rumpus is trying to give us the if you wanna know exactly what we're not like, or how people like Rumpus do get triggered, just have a look in the YouTube chat, see what Rumpus is doing, see how annoyed Rumpus gets whenever we're talking about these things. And what have we said about them, really? Not much. You can't really get an experience of this conversation until you come in. Rumpus is obviously ultra triggered by it. So if you're anything like Rumpus, you don't want to come over here. Like, Rumpus keeps making excuses that he can't come in, but that's really because he's scared to. The conversations that we have will trigger cognitive dissonance within Rumpus's mind, and that's what stops him from coming in. I said to these guys, I mean, if you don't trust me, just come on in. But I said to everybody a few years ago, we're going to stop people from coming round here. Not because we're banning them, just because they don't want to come in. They make fools out of themselves. And they expose how bad they are with not having any argument. Not one. There's never been one argument presented by this group of people, who Rumpus is one of them. Blue Marble Science. They do have they have like statements that they keep going on about, and one of them is something about reciprocal zenith angles. But I keep telling them, you can't say that you falsified the perpendicularity of vertical and horizontal. That would be ridiculous. Yet they keep saying it as though they don't actually understand the geometric principles and consequences of perpendicularity. It would be really embarrassing, but because they're I don't know what you call it, ignorant. Because they're ignorant of it, it doesn't really affect them. They don't really understand it. So they can just put out their mantra that because some guy called Jesse Kozlowski, who has done a runner, he told them something that they think is true. They fell for it. Fell for the biggest trick in the book. Specializes in personal abuse. Apparently. Talking about these YouTube characters. I mean, that's personal. Personal to the YouTube characters. So that's the sort of thing that we have to deal with, you see. Got Rumpus in the chat saying we specialize in personal abuse. That's Rumpus, the character on YouTube. Not much of a personal character. He's just a character on YouTube. Everybody knows what the Rumpus character's like on YouTube. I don't know how that's personal. What about Blue Marble Science? Is that a group of scientists? Is it a scientific endeavor concerning Blue Marble? Or Is it a YouTube character? Can you get personal about one and not the other? Who knows? Nobody knows who they are. I got told today by somebody on Twitter that atting somebody, when you use the at symbol on Twitter of a person, then you're doxing them. Literally. It's a guy called Dr. Bob. Now, I don't think it's the Bob that used to be a doctor, that isn't a doctor anymore, that's now researching a flat moon. I don't think it's that Dr. Bob, or it might be. I mean, who knows? We know that they do make lots of different accounts. But yeah, this Dr. Bob on Twitter told me today that I was a doxer because I used an at of somebody's Twitter account. So along with Rumpus saying about personal abuse, it's pretty obvious that this group of people are quite happy libeling and slandering what we do here. Just making up complete and utter bullshit. But it must be because there's something that we do, something that we have. Simple argument, maybe. Maybe exposing the fact that the perpendicular argument that Betty brought in, the mathematical one, maybe exposing the fact that this group of people want to invalidate a mathematical definition. I think it's called a definition. I mean, there's a postulate later on that says that two lines perpendicular to the same line. But, I mean, you could really call that an axiom as well if you wanted to. Within Euclidean geometry, anyway. So, like this guy said, I'll put that up in the chat as well. This is a guy called Flat Earth Math. And he said to his friend, Johnny Ragadoo, I'll be trying to disprove Euclid. So this Flat Earth Math guy is going to be trying to disprove Euclid. And obviously, Rumpus and Blue Marble Science thinks he has actually done it. He's disproved the perpendicularity works both ways, about vertical being perpendicular to horizontal. Oh no, sorry. Vertical's not perpendicular to horizontal, but horizontal is guaranteed to be perpendicular to vertical in this fantasy, the paracosm that they've made for themselves. Fantasists, I think we call them. Rumpus is really trying hard to get everybody triggered and get involved in it, isn't he? Lying again, Charles. Is he calling Charles lying? Where's he? Charles isn't even here. Rumpus, can we just, Rumpus, will you stop saying Charles is lying?
No, I think that he says that you are lying about Charles.
About what?
Charles did not say he was trying to disprove Euclid.
What's that say? What the fuck
this
does it say on the screen?
Yes, you can see Rumpus on the screen.
It says, I'll be trying to disprove Euclid. I mean, I posted it on the screen and said it, Rumpus. So for you to say he didn't say it, that obviously shows you, Rumpus, to be the liar. Literally, it's wrote there on the screen. He wrote it. And look at Blue Marble Science. The Blue Marble Scientists come over to moan about watching something that he doesn't want to watch. I don't know why you're being forced to watch it then, Blue. Just, you can go. It's one of these things that I try and give a warning out, Blue, right? we know that some people, they can't take it. Their minds just go, and it leads them into madness, an insanity. And that's where you're at, Blue. What you're best off doing is just going and, go and get a cocoa, maybe go and sit down, watch a bit of a space thing if you've got. Turn some NASA channel on. Watch Discovery, National Geographic or something like that. You feel much better. Like, you don't want to be dealing with this sort of philosophy, mind sort of stuff. It's too much for you guys. Don't worry about it, though. We leave that sort of conversation for us. You just go back and, I don't know, maybe go and put some oven mitts on your donkey and I don't know what you do. Go and do that sort of stuff. Maybe go and look at somebody's telescope. Maybe go to the bottom of the garden, get the telescope out and look at some lights in the sky or something. Is it dark? It might not be dark. See, Beddy's got his book out. I bet Beddy's been learning loads, Beddy. I hope you've got as much out of your perpendicular thing. And it's about perspective, isn't it? Is it about the perspective of how different people see mathematical proofs? Like when you can show people a mathematical proof of perpendicularity and then see how their perspective takes them, whether they have the mathematical understanding to follow through with the full mathematical proof, or whether they derive a contradiction and generate Jabberwockies. I think that's the sort of stuff. I mean, if I was making a book and I wanted to go and research a book, I would definitely go to the Blue Marble scientists and hand them something that they generate Jabberwockies from. That'd be the way I'd do it. And then you could definitely get a load of content out of it. You could obviously just flip it upside down and pretend it's the other way round. But yeah, definitely worthwhile. We definitely liked the perpendicular a perpendicular argument, Beddy, the shifting one, the one with the occulted premise. Genius touch that.
Or even premises, maybe.
I think the occulted premise was? It was a surprise Jabberwocky for flat earth math. I think he was like, he hid it in a little box and waited for flat earth math to open it up. He said, I've got a surprise there for you. And out popped a Jabberwocky.
If you have two premises and conclusion, and someone is talking about hidden premise, it means that this premise does not belong to syllogism. It means that this syllogism is just a paradox.
Oh.
Because normal syllogism has no hidden premises.
Euclid proposition 28 is unimpeachable, says Beddy. Well, so that means they're either, if they're not parallel, then they're not perpendicular. It's the simple answer to that one. Isn't it, Beddy? Have you told people that? Have you told them that they can't have it being perpendicular and then not parallel? Because Euclid, proposition 28, book 1, is unimpeachable. It's a mathematical proof. It's almost strange that you've allowed them, Beddy, to break that link of your, what you call unimpeachable, but you've allowed people like Flat Earth Math to believe it is, what's it called, impeachable? Falsifiable, even. I like it. Oh, they've brought Steph and Mud in as well now. Full on team in the text chat. If you noticed, everybody, please check into the chat and see that they're completely ignoring any of the conversation about the actual argument about perpendicular. It's almost as if the Jabberwockies are helping them avoid the conversation.
By the way, addressing Rumpus, he says that Euclid does not work in spherical geometry. Yes, because it was Euclidean geometry, and he didn't invent such stupid geometry. So, yes, it doesn't work in non-existing geometry. Yes, I agree.
Yeah, since we have Euclidean geometry in reality, that's why spherical geometry doesn't work, Rumpus. Yes.
We know that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Spherical geometry is not a three-dimensional geometry. And since we all live in 3 dimensions, then we are going to need a geometry that works in 3 dimensions. The only one that we know of, Rumpus, is Euclidean. So that's what we'll use. And you, as you quite rightly says, Euclidean geometry doesn't work. Yeah, Betty agreed. It is unimpeachable. Oh, yeah. Can you see that there, Betty? Just check that. You want to put yourself on the list, do you, Stefan? I know there's mathematicians that do agree with me. In fact, I can't see how anybody could deny the application of Euclidean geometry to reality. In fact, there's nobody. As everybody knows, I've done surveying. We have engineers, we have building construction guys here. Every one of them uses Euclidean geometry. Why would anybody want to disagree with us? It's mainly because I think that what these guys have done is they've have placed us in the realm of flat Earth, but we're not flat earthers. So that seems to be your problem, Rumpus. You imagine that when we're talking about proof in reality, we're talking about flat Earth, but no, flat Earth math he's your guy. I'd say it's ridiculous. I think flat Earth math is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of. It's one of the most ridiculous YouTube channels I've ever heard of. For somebody to use that as a name to promote themselves, I think it sounds stupid. But, I mean, there are people that do want to do that sort of stuff. They want to label themselves with these labels. But, I mean, this is a guy who claims to be a teacher. I can't verify it. Yeah, Betty hasn't decided whether he's going to put a section in his book of level is horizontal. Doesn't really matter because it's like Rumpus's test, I think. Gods. it's doubtable, right? He's never going to let you see it. He's just going to be able to talk about it as though he has. I got it, and then that's it. Oh, sorry, it was level bastard, isn't it? It's getting close to the end of the run, right? Whether he's going to put the chapter in his book or not. Okay. I don't know whether we want to be talking about Rumpus and all of that too much tonight. He seems to have had his go talking about perpendicularity, but we have to stress there is literally mathematical proofs within reality. There is a group of people that want to rely on mathematics, but then tell you can't bring mathematics to reality, which may sound completely contradictory. And that's because they are totally contradictory. But if they weren't contradictory, they wouldn't have anything. They wouldn't be able to involve themselves within mathematics because you wouldn't be able to relate that to reality. But somehow, I don't know. I've come to realize that this arena that we're in is so contradictory. People can't see it. Nobody really wants to talk about it either. Just exactly how contradictory and ridiculous this whole arena is.
Wait a second. Rumpus is just inventing new geometry. It is football geometry.
Oh,
Okay.
right. Drawing on footballs.
Not even drawing. I think that
Just footballs.
Just football geometry. Yeah.
Wow. Whenever they see a football, what? I've seen loads of footballs, Rumpus. What we call them is like a Euclidean sphere. They're in book 11, solid geometry, Euclidean solid geometry. People do know what balls are. For you to imagine that you're coming up with an argument by saying people don't know what balls are or they can't look at balls is absolutely ridiculous, Rumpus. Obviously.
And responding to Baby, we don't bother what Kant thinks because he has proved that he has problems with thinking.
Well,
we don't bother what he thinks.
Kant was the guy that said Euclidean geometry was inherent in nature. So is that what he's talking about? Because
no, he said that Kant thinks that geometry does not rely entirely on logic. Geometry is logic.
Yeah, well, like I say, Kant said that Euclidean geometry was inherent in nature and nature's reality. Euclidean geometry being inherent means it's within it. So, of course, the logic that goes along with Euclidean geometry is also inherent in nature. It must be.
Yes, thinking is in human nature, so it is natural for human to think. So everything is okay for me. I don't know why he Baby is saying that. Maybe It's his, let's say, intellectual provocation.
There you go, Rumpus. I did better than drawing lines on a football. I cut an eighth of it out. So that's mine. It's it's in my room. I took it. Was on the desk. So I mean, not so much of a problem. And I didn't really need to draw lines on it, but I did cut it into half, really, and then I cut a quarter of that half, like that. No problem, Rumpus. I know what a football is. Dead easy. It's I used it as a geometric shape of a sphere, although it's like a football. It's got a pattern on the outside of it. What? Rumpus, I didn't say that I couldn't cope. I said I could definitely do it. I can cut quarters and eighths out of balls. Like, you can do it. It's dead easy. But drawing lines on balls is not geometry, Rumpus. Never will be. It's ridiculous. It's just drawing things. Like, you can get a balloon and draw a face on it. That's not geometry. Rumpus, I didn't just do that. It's just a picture, Rumpus. A picture that I'd already prepared. Yeah, Rumpus, he's distracting now from actually addressing any of the issues of all of the problems that he actually has. And it's not just Rumpus that has these problems. There's loads more problems than anybody knows about. You've just got to come into the Discord. And then you'll be warned about what these problems will bring to you if you attempt to have these conversations. There is a warning that comes with this. And, like, it's a serious warning. People literally go insane. And that's no joke. These matters that we deal with, they're troubling for the mind. Can't get away from it. There's a group of people who've led us on a journey and shown us it. Beddy, thank you very much for that help. That was amazing. He showed us that certain people can be given a logical, mathematical proof and they will deny it in reality. They have to deny it in reality. That's more, I think, what Beddy's shown us. There are mathematical proofs that have to be denied within reality. And only for dogmatic model reasons. Like, anybody who doesn't have the dogmatic model won't have a problem with any of these mathematical proofs. In fact, you will gain knowledge from finding these proofs. You will gain a proof within reality. People like Rumpus and Blue Marble Science and all that, they don't want you knowing that. They don't want you knowing how simple these proofs are in reality, because these guys have a dogmatic model that's telling them they have to deny mathematical proofs. That's not our fault, but Beddy's, Beddy's the guy that brought it to our attention. I think he once did it to a guy who was a doctor. I think he was a bit disgraced or whatever, but he dropped what we called t-shirt logic, the original parallels argument, proposition after, I think. I do believe it's the proposition after 28, is it? Or 29, 30, 31? It's around there anyway. It's sort of around the perpendicular proof, where two straight lines that are parallel to another straight line are parallel to each other.
Maybe is quoting Kant. That supposedly Kant said that or wrote that space is not objective, which is obviously false, and it is provably false. But that's why we don't bother with Kant. Yes, he did say some let's say one good sentence, but it does not make him a good philosopher.
Well, you can't say who's good or bad. We haven't done that much about him. I think he struggled with much of the same things that Rumpus and Blue Marble and Flat Earth Math are having to deal with.
Yes,
These
I think that
internal inconsistencies, let's say.
Yeah. So they cannot deal with reality. So they are trying. Modern philosophers are trying to invent. They invent some, let's say, ideas in their mind, and they like these ideas. And when they start to look around, they can see at some point that their thoughts are inconsistent with reality, and then they are trying to reject reality, because their thought is more precious for them than reality. So they are just rejecting reality. That's the whole point of modern philosophers. So, because it's rejection of objective reality. That's why Kant said that a space is not objective, because they generally they object objective reality. They defy objective reality. This objectivism, this is this thorn which is hurting them. This objectivity. They hate objectivity.
Well, obviously, these are the sorts of things that it should be able for us to discuss and talk about. But as you can see, we can talk about it. There's another side that say opposing thoughts, but they only say it through the text chat trolling.
Yeah,
it's the only way that they know how to communicate. Discussing Kant, and I mean, if you want to come in and have a discussion about Kant, Betty, anytime. I mean, you are the dogmatician for the Blue Marble scientists. Should be able to do a thing. In fact, it would be better if you go over these philosophers, especially the ones that went mad, the insane ones. Discuss that with the Blue Marble scientists. I would. Be much better than just saying, no, he didn't say that. And like, really, here's the lesson, really, is that Kant was just some bloke. No different than you or me. anyone. Just some dude who said some things. Now, Kant's doing a little bit better because somebody wrote that stuff down. What would be even better is for somebody to actually come and say those things for themselves, rather than saying, well, Kant said that and Kant didn't say that. Doesn't really make much difference on who said what. If anybody has their own point of view, then come on in. Come and have a chat. I've noticed about Beddy is that he does like to say about other people things. Yeah, Kant was just some bloke, Beddy. It's like you're quoting it. Was Kant not a bloke? Or was he not just some bloke?
And like Descartes and this
Another
Bacon,
bloke.
another, yes, but even politician. So what?
Just people. Stefan Mudd's talking about what are you talking about? Theorems. Who's denying what? Stefan Mudd. Who are you? If you want to do a presentation, Stefan, about how you can prove these theorems, come on in. Don't tell me I'm denying them. I don't know what they are. Come and explain it, Stefan. Say, this is the proof that I have of my dogmatic globe model. These proofs of Girard's theorem. You do know that Gauss knew that spherical trigonometry was just from circles, right?
They don't even believe in proof.
Well, Stefan Mudd does. He believes that Gauss had some sort of spherical, but it's spherical trigonometry. Stefan. They later changed it to geometry, but it's not. It's just spherical trig performed within the angles internal to a sphere on circles, which are Euclidean. It bores most people, though, that sort of shit. And it is. It's really boring. And nobody knows what you're talking about, Stefan. So if you want to just, instead of just sitting in a text chat saying Gauss theorem, like, just come in and explain it. Come in and explain what the proof is about. It's cold. And then you can explain why it's a proof. People might be able to take it on as their own proof, Stefan. I don't hold out either of those as any proof because I've never bothered with them. But does that mean, you know, they're not proofs? I don't know. Like, you have to come in and explain us what they are proof of. And what proofs you can dismiss because of those. Or whether they just build up on other proofs that are already existing. I would imagine that they don't just make proofs out of thin air. They have to be built upon already existing standards, axioms, and postulates. You can't just derive them out of nowhere. And since they are theorems, I would say that they're going to be based upon Euclidean existing proofs already. So, but come with whatever you want, Stefan. Ah, there's no mic. That's terrible. Imagine being 2023 and you've not got a mic available.
You ain't got a microphone.
No mic
Don't
on
lie.
your.
You got a mic.
No mic on your phone. No mic on your PC. No mic on your laptop. Yeah. Sounds plausible, doesn't it?
Yeah, sounds legit, like every other baller.
Summer home. He's got 2 houses, but no fucking mic. Yeah. Yeah, just stay in the chat. Don't worry about it. It's probably going to be better anyway if you leave the talking to somebody who probably can do talking anyway. Attend on repeat a question which is not answered. Yeah, you keep answering it. You keep asking stupid questions. If you want, like I say, I'll say it again, Stefan. If you want to come and present a proof that you have gained for yourself, you can come and present it anytime you want. Right. It's okay. I mean, we know most people aren't ready for talking. It can be a big step. What's Betty talking about? Okay. Yeah. I don't know what you're talking about, Betty. Who's Betty talking to there? Does anybody know? Is he talking to anyone in particular, or is he just...
I think he's talking to Mike Jones because Mike Jones brought that Kant wrote something in that work, and now Betty
wants him to recite everything.
Yes, I think that Betty should look at this prolegomena for himself.
Yeah, I mean, he should do if he's the logician. He might be able to learn a bit from it. And if Mike Jones has led him to do that, yeah, I think he should say thanks. Yeah. Yeah, but Mike's on his holiday. He's never going to get that. You should be able to do it yourself. It's the age of Google. You should just be able to Google it and look for it for yourself. Or I would imagine that he's got a copy of it anyway. He just wants to see whether you took your copy of it on holiday with you. There you go. Look, he's got his copy.
Oh, so he needs citation because he doesn't know where it is exactly. Okay.
So you've got your copy of Kant, and you're reading along with it. I bet there's not many people that can say that, is there? That they have Globe. Say Globe. I don't know whether that's right. I don't think he is actually. It just sort of a dogmatic logic teacher. Does he claim to have been a logic teacher at university? Sat watching our show, reading Kant. That's how posh we are. I bet Nathan Oakley doesn't have anybody sat listening to his commenting in the chat. reading Kant. Do you read Kant whenever you're listening to Blue Mom? Was anybody else here ever fancied reading a bit of Kant while we were doing the show?
Typical baby. He wants Mike Jones to demonstrate how good he is with knowledge of Kant. So, sorry, baby, Mike Jones is not obliged to demonstrate anything to you. And by the way, he's on the beach. Why he should bother to demonstrate anything to you while he is on the beach?
And he is actually on the beach. He's on holiday. It looks like a really nice spot. Mike's building sandcastles in Betty's mind, along with the dodos. Or just a freeform cant off in the YouTube chat, initiated by Betty, the proofless logician. Why can't we talk about the perpendicular proof that you've brought, Betty? I think that would be a much better topic, and as to why did you bring the perpendicular proof, Betty? I've been asking you that for a couple of weeks now. What was the purpose for you to bring a perpendicular proof that you knew that these guys would have to deny? I think that's brilliant. It's one of the best things yet. Mike's going to have memorized a load of geometric quotes from Kant.
Yes,
is that sort of a dude?
No, but Baby is demanding an exact quotation, which is not because he insists that this is what standard practice, scholarly practice requires. No, it does not require, especially scholarly. So in scholastic,
the exact word.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. This is not true. You can quote from memory or cite from memory. You can just quote ad sensum. This is quotation or citation ad sensum. So you can just describe sense of what someone was saying. And this is also a valid form of citation. So absolutely not, especially in a YouTube chat. So his demand is just ridiculous.
Have you not got in a PDF form, Betty? You can just put it in and then find out where it is. Just put in like a word search, inherent. Let me. I'll just do a quick one. I'll get me DuckDuckGo, and I'll do inherent Kant. Let's see what it comes up with. Ethics. Oh, I can't find anything there. Theory of human rights, intrinsic value. Kant does not use the word inherent. Intrinsic. How about that? No, I can't. I don't know why we're looking for Kant anyway. We get back to the more simpler stuff of Bede's perpendicular argument. Is this just a distraction, Bede, from talking about your perpendicular argument and why you brought it around here for everybody to walk into? Because it has opened up a conversation that we can have with anyone about a mathematical proof and how to people relate that mathematical proof of perpendicularity to in nature, in reality, where there are things that are thought of as perpendicular. It's like, can we relate that perpendicular that we talk about in reality to the perpendicular within Euclidean geometry? How are those two relatable? Now that is a philosophical question to ask. Don't think you can get away from that one. Can you relate perpendicular from geometry to perpendicular in reality? And I would say the geometry was derived from nature, since it is earth measurement, the land measurement. It was needed to measure the land. So they came up with a proof system for them to be able to do that. Kant denies that space is a feature of things in themselves. Well, yeah, it's not in space. How could space be within the thing? Space is the physical, the distance between physical objects. So the space does not occur within the object. The space is between. I would have anyway, but like I say, it's just people's points of view. What one person thinks, another person can think it. And what we need to be able to do is we need to be able to communicate those sort of discussions to each other rather than just sort of texting shit in the chat. Come and have the conversation. Be brave enough to stand up and explain what your perpendicular proof was and what the idea was. I think you wanted people to see the aporema. You wanted to see what happened through their perspective. What happens when you hand people a proof, right? A literal modus ponens proof. If you hand this proof to people that can't accept it, you can watch them through their perspective. You are doing a book on perspective, aren't you? You can watch people's perspective of how they invert that proof, how they deny the mathematical proof. It's an interesting thing. If you're going to write books about things, that's the way I would research these ideas. I don't know who else you'd have talked to them about. Obviously Betty's now doing the let's pretend we don't know anything about the perpendicular proof. Just keep talking to Mike about his holiday. Talk about Kant. What we call that, Betty, is the it's the Jabberwocky that's doing that. Oh, has he gone?
He said good night.
Oh yeah, no, that's that's his Jabberwocky telling him to get out of here quick. See you later, Betty. You don't want to have anything to do with this perpendicular stuff. You've developed Jabberwockies in flat earth mathematical minds. I don't know how many Jabberwockies will be developed from this, or whether we're going to be able to explain what they are. Were you around, Paper? Like over the weekend, we had a couple of conversations. We went over a conversation that we had on Saturday, yesterday, or today. We've been over it again, I think. Earlier on.
No, my weekends are busy.
Okay.
Sadly.
Well, what we did was we had this idea, right? That Betty brings an argument, a perpendicular argument. That argument is obviously, it's a modus ponens. It's an actual mathematical proof, right? And a true argument, right? Set out, it's a valid, call it whatever you want, right? The truth value goes all the way through it. So Betty brings that argument, obviously hands it to this group of people who I'm pretty certain he knew they wouldn't be able to accept it. But how does the mind deal with that? Right? Well, his subject was a guy called Flat Earth Math. I think he already knew that there was an ongoing issue built around this perpendicular with Flat Earth Math.
I would say that not even subject, but I would say test subject.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Betty wants to see what's going on, so he hands this argument, and Flat Earth Math obviously jumps in feet first. He's loving it. So he develops this, obviously, break within the antecedent consequent relationship, which we then sort of put that down to, that's a contradiction, right? Now, the moment you introduce a contradiction into your psyche, or whatever you want to call it, along with that contradiction comes a Jabberwocky. Because the Jabberwocky needs you to keep this contradiction separate. Because you have to accept the contradiction, but you can't look at it, because then you'll notice it's a contradiction. So the Jabberwocky is what you use to help you not see it, right? Are you with me?
Yeah.
Okay, so now Flat Earth Math has shown us, by making a video about this perpendicular argument, but what he did was, instead of saying it was Betty's perpendicular argument he was trying to slay, he said then it was Saragaki's perpendicular argument. Right? Same thing, same argument, but he shifted the focus away from Bedi and onto Saragaki. He then can call Saragaki a flat earther rather than having to call Bedi a flat earther, because it's the same argument, except he can just divert it in a different way.
Okay, but still, if Bedi said that this proof is unimpeachable, so it means that Bedi has to agree with that argument. So it makes him flat earther also.
Yeah,
Sorry.
but he just doesn't, like you've seen, if Bedi doesn't actually acknowledge it now, he can wipe his hands of that. And Flat Earth Math has now given it to Saragaki. So Saragaki's perpendicular argument, although it's exactly the same as Bedi's, they've been able to switch the focus, because obviously they can't question their own Bedi's side rule and all that. It's now shifted to Saragaki. But what it showed us is that they are aware of the development of the Jabberwocky. Flat Earth Math showed us that. He made that. He put it in the video. And he said it was Saragaki's Jabberwocky. But obviously, it's just exactly the same argument as Bedi's. So it's not Saragaki's Jabberwocky. This is Flat Earth Math that's developed a Jabberwocky. And as soon as you do, they can't talk about it. We had a conversation with some people, and this is dead easy to show how people's own Jabberwockies will stop them from addressing the issue for you to be able to find the contradiction. The Jabberwocky guards the contradiction.
I would say that this Jabberwocky works like this bridge of asses.
Yeah.
That would be bridge of asses.
It will guard the bridge of asses, right?
Yeah.
And they want you to be brought down with the Jabberwocky. Now, what the strange thing was that Flat Earth Math decided he was going to slay a Jabberwocky. I think he says he thinks he did it too. He thinks he's dispelled this Jabberwocky, but you can't dispel the Jabberwocky and keep the contradiction.
Yes, because it means if he dispelled Jabberwocky, then supposedly he could pass this bridge of asses. So next question is, did he do that? Did he pass this bridge?
Well, he still has the contradiction. Like, literally, he has the contradiction that you can have horizontal guaranteed to be perpendicular to vertical, but vertical not being perpendicular to horizontal. That's still held.
This is impossible. If vertical is perpendicular to horizontal, therefore horizontal is perpendicular to vertical. This is self-evident. Modus ponens, in form of modus ponens, but still self-evident. So you don't need to prove your antecedent because it is already proven. But it is in form of modus ponens. All right. This is like the same thing like this example of syllogism, which is self-evident, but still you can put this in form of syllogism, this Wikipedia or let's say Aristotle's example of Socrates, man, etc., and being mortal. It is self-evident. Every statement of that syllogism is self-evident, but still you can't put it together into syllogism. So the same thing is with this modus ponens. These two things are self-evident, but still you can create from that modus ponens. So for me, this is just double nonsensical, because you have to reject modus ponens, and you have to reject one of these statements. For example, consequent. If you are rejecting consequent, you need to reject antecedent. And he is not denying antecedent. So he is not reversing modus ponens into modus tollens, in fact. So I would say that this is state of aporia, classical.
That's the interesting thing. That okay, Beddy doesn't want to talk about this, but that's fair enough. I mean, he was the one that brought it around. He wants other people to discuss it, which I'm quite welcome to do that. In fact, knowing the conversation that I had over the weekend, I'm ready to talk about this much more, because I think lots of other people should be discussing this, because to me it's so clear, exposes the mind of a delusionist, somebody who's allowed themselves to accept a contradiction. And the Jabberwocky, what the Jabberwocky does is it exposes itself by the person cannot address the issue, whereas the issue here is quite a simple perpendicular argument within mathematics and items in reality that also have that relationship of perpendicularity. That's how easy this discussion is, relating this to this, and can you relate this to this? But people who have allowed themselves a contradiction can't address it. They can't see it. They won't even look at it. That's how scared they are of it. And I thank Beddy for being able to bring this. I mean, I think he's a wonderful philosopher for bringing the conversation. Now, it's a tricky conversation to be able to have. And I don't think there are many people that can have the conversation, especially within this arena, because this arena is hyper specific on people that who perhaps hold contradictory thoughts. There's a mindset that possibly a certain individual could have. And I think you'd have to, oh well, I don't know. We'll have to have more conversations and see how well it goes. But I'm willing to bet that this is something that's been put into us at childhood. So there is going to be a lot of people that are unaware of them having this contradictory thoughts. And I don't know how people will try and react to it.
I would say that normal people just cannot see contradictions. But in this arena, even if people cannot see contradictions, we showed them many times these contradictions, and they cannot accept it. So they have to close their eyes.
Yeah,
for that.
but now, is it them closing their eyes, or is their Jabberwocky averting their gaze for them?
I would maybe they think that we are Jabberwocky for them. We are a threat. I don't know, or they are just converting us into Jabberwocky. I don't know, really, because this is psychological issue, not logical.
Well, yeah, if you think about how Flat Earth Math did it, right? He turned Saragaki's argument into the Jabberwocky in his mind.
Yes, so that would mean that maybe not Sarugaki is Jabberwocky for Flat Earth Math, but he's deliverer of the Jabberwocky.
Mm-hmm.
That would be Sarugaki.
Well, that would be Beddy, right? He's just shifting it to Saragaki. He's
yes, of course.
It is Beddy, but he's trying to hand it off.
Yeah,
I guess there's something wrong with the, him addressing the argument.
Yes, so I would say that Baby produced hot potato and then is trying to throw this hot potato at Sarugaki. I would say it doesn't work. It is original Baby's argument. That maybe makes him flat earther.
Yeah, that was another thing I've been talking to him about.
Should ask Blue Marble Science if is Baby flat earther. He should be. He should be for Blue Marble Science and Rumpus and many others. Baby should be considered as flat earther. Really.
Yeah, I think. Well, Beddy said he made the argument for me, but it's literally a perpendicular argument. I don't know why he was saying he was making it for me. I think that's sort of allowable in the Blue Marble Scientists. Beddy can just hand it off and say, no, I didn't, that wasn't, it wasn't an argument that I made. It was for Bev.
It doesn't matter. Proof is a proof. It is objectively proof or not. So it doesn't matter if he handed that to you or someone else. It's still a proof. So if this proof is making him flat earther, so that would be a problem, I think, because side rule maybe doesn't work. Or maybe he is playing two sides. I don't know.
He's writing a book about perspective. Like, as I expected, I think Beddy's after the reaction. So bringing the arguments. Obviously, we have arguments. And I've tried to make them less abrasive. We don't go round to certain rooms because we know that saying certain things to certain people brings out these Jabberwockies, if you will. It makes the people get very aggressive and defensive and, it's just not really worth it. And then conversation gets shut down and people tend to turn things upside down. So, for instance, if I were to go in there and make an argument, then people would automatically say it was false. Even if it was like a perpendicular argument, for instance. One that was so simple that it's dead easy and the obvious proof, the consequent follows it. You can obviously derive it and work it out yourself. But simply because the fact that I've said it, it turns into, there's so many Jabberwockies get made within the room. Everybody wants to sort of attack it or whatever. And so I've just stopped going out there. It's not worth it. There are people who don't want to hear and they just get upset. But Betty's done exactly the same thing as a younger, naive Bev was doing. And it led me into them telling me that I was a flat earther. I can't work out how they've not said the same thing about Betty. Really. Other than the fact that, you know, I had friends. I found Emma and Spot On and, you know, Redman turn up. Right from the very beginning over at 24/7. People who I could talk to. Maybe that's it, whoever your first contact is. But they're people to talk to. Betty seems to be getting away with saying the same sort of things that I'm saying. And he doesn't get labelled as anything, whereas Flat Earth Math can label people flat earthers for making the same argument that Betty does. It's a very strange arena that we're in, and this is a very strange thing that it does to people's minds.
I would say that maybe that's why he's talking about these hidden premises, and he's delivering that bullshit to Flat Earth Math, because then Flat Earth Math can say, and he said that this proof is a trick for us. So it is not really proof, but only tricky proof.
Yeah, the occulted premise. Remember that? I mean, what?
That would be his defense of Baby, I would say.
I think that's the Jabberwocky. Like he said, that, you know, that's the hidden thing. It's occulted. It's a little present he's put in there, especially for Flat Earth Math. He didn't do it for us. The occulted thing was the Jabberwocky, and Flat Earth Math picked it up. He loves it. He's on about making a video about mental health off the back of it. Mental health. That's how bad it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Strange.
Betty doesn't know what he's done. He's brought a perpendicular argument and Flat Earth Math in his head. He's got an idea about mental health. That's troubling. Needs to be, you know, people need to be warned that this perpendicular argument and model affliction causes Jabberwockies.
What was the name of this Hungarian mathematician who warned his son to not do that? Buliani?
Yeah. Buliai. Janos was his son, wasn't it?
I can't remember now.
I think so. I think Janos was the son. He said, don't. Look, I've tried to go sailing. And we've got somebody who had a quote put it out the other day. Every ship that's gone out to try and find that perpendicular has come back with a broken mast and torn sails. There be Jabberwockies out there.
So maybe this mathematician just warned his son that Jabberwocky is waiting.
Yeah.
When so.
Yeah, the only thing that's there is Jabberwockies. You go away from reality. You just start making Jabberwockies.
Maybe Flat Earth Math overcounted, because maybe he thought that he will deal with Jabberwocky, that he is brave enough to take that on his shoulders, but I don't think that mind can stand with that.
No, but I think It's one of those things, like I thank Betty for bringing the perpendicular argument in, because it shows us that within this discussion there's a very simple mathematical proof that is required to be denied. And when that comes, flat earth math has shown us that you can call that generating a Jabberwocky. Now, how the Jabberwocky comes about, how it's made, what it does, well, that's all up for discussion. And that's what flat earth math has given us. So in conjunction, Betty and flat earth math have probably given us one of the greatest philosophical breakthroughs that you could have for this entire arena. And when I say this entire arena, I mean for this 2023. Like, this conversation can be had with anyone, because it goes down to the roots of do you hold contradictions? And if you do, how do you know? Because one of the best things that came about, right, was the fact that if you have contradictions, then you generate a Jabberwocky. But a Jabberwocky is a nonsense. And how does the mind deal with nonsense? Because we literally have a system for working to derive making sense of reality. That's called logic, right? And logic is reasoning, and that makes sense of things. But a Jabberwocky is nonsense. So how does the mind cope with nonsense? Does the mind actually have a system to deal with nonsense?
Yes, has. And even we have normal, healthy reaction for absurd. And this is laugh. I think that most of jokes are based on absurds or reductio ad absurdum. That's why we laugh.
But we're not talking about that, are we? We're talking about a nonsense that isn't funny. This is like a forced nonsense, because these people aren't joking about it when they say.
Yes, I understand, but I would say that natural reaction for nonsense is laugh.
Yeah. Like we were saying, I had the analogy, right, that we were going Jabberwocky hunting, and me and Saragaki was stood at the door going, come on, this is this is fun. These are cute little things. We want to go hunting them just to find them, to go and be inquisitive about them. But to these people, other people, their Jabberwockies become immense. They're scary. And they don't want to go looking for them, because I think the brain, the normal brain, if it doesn't really have logic, but it does, a natural logic, you can't get rid of it. But the other side of that is a nonsense, and I don't think minds pick up on it. They just dismiss it. A lot of people, they won't even notice it because it's so nonsensical. The brain can't even react to it. There is no reply to a nonsense. Like when I first came into this arena and I was having a debate with a guy called Fight the Flat Earth, and the debate was about the straight line and level. So the geometric straight line and level. That was the debate topic. That was what we did. And his first statement was that straight lines bend. I literally didn't know what to say. It was a nonsense. Don't think that there is a reply do that as that was his opening statement, as though he dealt with straight by saying non-Euclidean geometry, straight lines bend. Now, to me, that's still a nonsense. It just doesn't compute. There's no sense to be made out of it. Because you have to give up your reasoning ability for something that just doesn't make any sense. And you can't build anything on that.
Yes, I would say that, for example, if someone is saying that straight line bends like fight the flat Earth, this is Jabberwocky, and I would say that they are trying to tame Jabberwocky by inventing, let's say, spherical geometry. That would be their means to tame Jabberwocky, because if not tamed, it would be scary. So they are trying to make this Jabberwocky less scary by inventing like spherical geometry or whatever, or imaginometry or whatever. But
Yeah,
I think that would not work, in fact.
But it's
cannot
a
tame.
nonsense, isn't it? They
Yes, you
just
cannot
sort of
tame.
learn to use the nonsense. And that then goes into the structure of the mind, right? Your logical framework. If you allow this Jabberwocky within an axiom, right, to get, if the Jabberwocky is allowed to the axiomatic framework, then you can start constructing more nonsense built upon this. And I don't think it needs to be said. I think a lot of people are like that nowadays.
Yes, they are. But I think that you cannot tame Jabberwocky. It is nonsense will be nonsense, because we have only one logic, unfortunately or fortunately. So unfortunately for some people, because they have their fantasy, and it would be fantasy because normal logic will say that this is nonsense anyway.
Yeah, I think that's what Flat Earth Math's done. He thinks he's slain a Jabberwocky, but somehow that means that he's got to incorporate the nonsense that he's generated through the contradiction. Because he, like I say, he hasn't given up the contradiction. So that's the only way to get rid of it, really, is to deal with the contradiction. And if you deal with the contradiction, then you realise the Jabberwocky wasn't there anyway. It never actually existed. It was something you generated from the contradiction. Do away with the contradiction, you do away with the Jabberwocky. You can't keep the contradiction, do away with the Jabberwocky. It's nearly as bad a framework as generating the contradiction in the first place.
Yes, I would say that's a contradiction. That if you're trying to build something on contradiction, then you will create Jabberwocky, because you are going into more and more contradictions. So it's just developing disease, I would say.
Yeah, the dysfunctional navigator says Jabberwocky's like the little bears from Endor. Yeah, I was thinking of more like gremlins with the like little gizmo, the little fluffy ones of the gremlins.
Yeah, small malicious ones.
Yeah. Yeah, because to me, like I say, we go hunting them. That's what we do here. Right? And they are there to expose. And everybody's open to come and try and expose contradictions. We love it here. That there won't be any shouting or anything. If you like that sort of conversation and argumentation and challenging both yourself and other people, then come in on the level Discord. Click it. If not, then don't worry about it. We are a little, I'd say, a more exclusive group, especially with the group of people we have already in here. Don't be intimidated by anybody that is in here. Just if you want to come in, listen, say hi, sit around, listen for a bit, and then join in with the conversation whenever. That's what we're here for. But in order to understand what goes on here, you really need to come into the Discord when we're not live. But yeah, I'm liking the idea of the Jabberwocky, and I hope you guys out in there in the chat are getting the idea of this, right? If you know what a Jabberwocky is, and it's a nonsense poem from Lewis Carroll, the guy who I think it was actually within Alice in the Looking Glass. That's where this poem comes from, and it's obviously comes from a time where I think they realized that this is what you call magic. The ability to use nonsenses to control people, because obviously some people can generate Jabberwockies. They have the ability to do that. And then other people have the ability to induce them in people through argumentation.
Rather through sophistry, yes.
Well, you have to be able to give somebody these two contradictory things first, yeah. Right? You have to give somebody the ability to hold two contradictory things.
Yes, I would say that this sophistry is, of course, higher sophistry is using a form of argumentation. So it has appearance of argumentation, but it is not. So that's how high grade, let's say, sophists operates, because they are using form of argumentation. So people are convinced not only by rhetoric skills of the speaker, but also they think that this is argument, which is not, but they think it is because it has appearance of argument. So they think that they are smart, that they understood argument, and they take as its own. And this is bad, sad side of the story. But it happens, yes. Okay, I have to go to bed, have work very, very early.
Okay, okay.
So, good night. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so yeah, I think like I say, we've had the conversation over the weekend, and the ability to use this understanding of how somebody can flip a modus ponens argument, which is a proof positive argument, as a and turn it into a contradiction. That's been shown to us by a group of people. I don't think that, I don't think they should have done this. I think Beddy was testing something. I don't know what he was testing. maybe it's just the fact that we're in this position that we've picked up on it, and we're sort of, you know, we're curious philosophers, little bitty philosophers. But I mean, what else have we got to do? Some people have a lot of time to think, so that's what you do, think about things. And I've been curious about this group of people and human nature, how people deal with their own minds. Here we are. Betty's shown us an argument. Charles has shown us the reaction. And here we are to discuss it. It's pretty simple, really. And if anybody does want to come and discuss any of these things, maybe if you don't understand it fully, it's quite difficult. It's quite difficult for us to explain, but it can be explained. But it needs to be on a one-to-one if you're struggling with it. If you get it, I mean, if you've been with us for however long and you've not been influenced by the haters and all of that, you might be able to get this already. I'm pretty sure most people that's come along with us on this journey, they already understand it. Hopefully. But don't worry if you don't, because it's a nonsense anyway to start off with. So certain things can't be understood. They are nonsense. There is no way of making sense of it. You have to sort of look around the periphery of it to find as much real as you can. Because you can only make sense of what is. And that's what the danger is, right? The danger is that people like Charles will attempt to make sense of this nonsense. And the moment you do that, that's when you start to lose reality. If you can swap the sense from reality and shift it over to the nonsense, if you can start making sense of nonsense, well, your mind is at risk. And obviously there's certain people whose minds have fully transversed over into nonsense. They think that they can literally break in half the relationship of perpendicular, whereas one of the lines is perpendicular to the other one, but the other one isn't perpendicular. That perpendicular relationship isn't reciprocated. I mean, don't even try and imagine it. It's ridiculous. But certain people just come out with it. They say it. They have to say it. That's where their minds go. And you don't want to be one of those. And if you are, there's a Discord server for you. There's plenty of Discord servers, I would imagine. Just not this one. Because me personally, there's countless hours of me talking to people. If you go back, all you've got to do is go back and listen to it. You'll know when you hear it. It's just nonsense. Their Jabberwockies are fighting every step of the way for us to have a simple conversation about simple things. Yeah, gotcha. They have to be. But I mean, who's having a game with us? I think just unleashing, if you stop people from learning logic, right? If you take that out of the schooling system, the fundamentals I'm talking here, and you change education so there's no ability for you to know logic, then how do you know what a contradiction is? You can only spot these contradictions if you know what a contradiction is. And you only know what a contradiction is by studying logic and working these arguments out. If you say if this, then this, and then if that link gets severed or there's some sort of a fallacy generated, then you can point it out and say, look, here's a bit of a problem, this. But if somebody then says, no, there's no problem there, and you say, yeah, there's a problem, look at it. And they say, I can't see that. There's no contradiction there. Where do you go from there? Where does the conversation go? Normally goes into, well, shouting. People normally try and run away from the conversation, right? There's something happens to the minds at that point. You can't show somebody a contradiction that they can't see. And if you can see the contradiction, then just be thankful that you can see the contradiction. You don't need to pass it on to anybody else. You can't help anybody else. But you should feel thankful that you can see it at least. Oh, I think Ali's turn. In the beginning was the word, yeah. I'd have that. I wouldn't have the downhill. It got good for a bit. But I think we're going over a few of these Plato plays. Well, one of them that was wrote by Euclid, strangely enough. One of Plato's best plays that was wrote by somebody else. A guy called Euclid. And that sort of says that these things that we're talking about now have been going on for centuries, millennia. The oldest sort of conversations that there is. Because it must be the human condition. People just do this sort of thing. Some people can see contradictions. Some people can't see contradictions. The interaction between the ones that can, the one that can't. The sophists that can play with the people that can't see contradictions. Because it's a lot easier to fool somebody that can't see contradictions than it is to fool somebody that can see contradictions. Somebody who's got no logic can be fooled quite easily by a skilled sophist. A magician, I call them. So has anybody got anything else you want to, any topics anybody wants to go over? I don't want to labour the point on that, but I will be saying that there is a conversation that I want to be having, and this Jabberwocky analogy will be getting used quite a lot, I think. I think we can use this as a tool for people to slightly get a grip on something that isn't. It's a nonsense and it's hard to talk about the not that, which is another topic that we need to get into. The difference between that and not that. Well, talking about that is easy because you can say that. You can look at it, you can point at it, you can specify that, and you can talk about maybe its colour, shape, size, weight. There's loads of things you can say about that. But the not that, if you remove the that, take that out of the conversation, then what is a not that? You can't really talk about it. Well, the not that is a type of Jabberwocky. Something that you can't really say. It's a nonsense. It's less than a nonsense. It's a nothing.
Sorry, Beth. Can I?
Go on.
Can I, yeah. No, I've been listening to the whole show today, but I missed what a Jabberwocky was defined as by you.
You can't.
I just
You can't
missed it.
define it. It's a
Okay.
nonsense.
Okay. I kind of know what you're getting at. I just thought
Yeah.
maybe
It's
for those
yeah.
people that missed out on it, I get what you're saying. I just thought maybe some people would misunderstand what Jabberwocky is.
Well, yeah. It's something like if you really want to know what it is, it's a poem, and it's a Terry Gilliam film. I think Terry Gilliam did it quite well. But yeah, it's a poem that I presume kids did at school, or I don't think we did it, but I think I've heard of other people similar sort of age doing it at school, going over it. I don't know whether they still do that sort of stuff, but it's a poem. It's a nonsense poem from the mind of Lewis Carroll, the guy who did Alice Through the Looking Glass, in which obviously the nonsense was within down the rabbit hole, the Mad Hatter, or all of that sort of stuff, Cheshire Cat. It's all nonsense. It's fantasy. That's the sort of thing that we're talking about now. It's a not that. All of it. It's been conjured up in the mind. Jabberwocky will never cross the...
Wait, no, I was just, sorry, my mute button's far away. No, I was just going to say, which is funny, because Alice in Wonderland, isn't that whole thing where she's dreaming the entire movie? Because she doesn't actually go down a rabbit hole. She passes out and then thinks she wakes up and sees a rabbit. But it's all a dream. The entire movie is a dream. Weird.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think there's a slightly darker side to it that you've probably not like a Disney production. The other is probably a little bit more sinister and probably a lot more darker than was originally made out in the cartoon type thing. But yeah, I like the idea of the generating a Jabberwocky through contradiction is the thing, because we've been talking to quite a few people, and it's nothing to feel ashamed about or anything, but don't think there's a lot of people that know what a contradiction is. Like, because the logic has been given, not taught, and been taught in a way now that it's like a mathematical thing, processing for computers, whereas we're talking about a way of communicating through arguments, but not an argument like the modern day argument type thing, like an argument that you can come to a conclusion. Yeah, if anybody wants to watch the Jabberwocky film, it's probably along the same sort of lines, but at least
I
you
might
end
check
up
it out.
laughing. You've never seen it?
I've never seen it.
Oh,
No.
it's
So
a
it'd probably
Monty
be.
Python.
I'd probably understand. Yeah, I'd probably understand. No, I've seen a few Monty Python, but I'd probably understand a little bit more about the whole content. Like I already kind of get what the Jabberwockian is, but I think I'd get more context by watching the movie.
Well, I think hopefully we're going to be able to start placing it within conversations, and that should help us, bring the idea of this out, because it's a Jabberwocky that we are sort of been given from Flat Earth Math. Like, he generated a Jabberwocky from a perpendicular argument. And he's put it in a video. If you want to see, how somebody can literally make a Jabberwocky from an argument that's been given from both Beddy and Saragaki. Saragaki's argument is more a direct mathematical perpendicular proof. Just he wrote vertical and horizontal on the lines. So the Saragaki's proof is a mathematical perpendicular proof, whereas Beddy gave us a logical argument. He formulated a perpendicular argument, but didn't quite go into the lengths that Saragaki did. So Saragaki's perpendicular argument is a lot more well-formed and well-written than Beddy's perpendicular argument. But nevertheless, Beddy gave us a slightly more simplified version of Saragaki's perpendicular argument. But Saragaki's perpendicular argument is just a perpendicular argument. It's not for one person or another. It's literally a proof within mathematics. And Flat Earth Math turned it into a Jabberwocky somehow. For what reason? For what purpose?
Well, yeah, because they're trying to tie it to their model.
Yeah.
They have to.
Yeah, that's the point. If you learn this perpendicular argument, then anyone with a model will either be forced to look at the contradiction, or they will make a Jabberwocky. Like, they'll conjure a Jabberwocky up right in front of your face as you're talking to them. It's a powerful tool within conversation that Beddy's given us. I think he's marvelous. We should all aim to be more like Beddy and challenge yourself with these arguments, and make yourself understand the perpendicular argument more. And then you can start to question as to why Beddy is such a good philosopher. Right? Because you can then begin to challenge your conceptions about what perpendicular is. But it's not a, it's not a weapon to be used. It's a conversational tool for you to have a conversation with someone. And already knowing that how these Jabberwockies can be generated, you've got to be careful. Like, the idea is to not bring up a Jabberwocky, right? You want to try and dispel the contradiction without getting a Jabberwocky out. You want to be talking to people about reality and handing over the modus ponens as a proof.
I have to get going, guys. I got to test the Bluetooth stereo. I will see you tomorrow. Thank you very much.
All right. Jabberwocky is or not that? Yeah, you want to hope so. Get rid of the contradiction. You don't make a Jabberwocky. But like I said in the conversation, I don't personally hold any Jabberwockies. If you do want to, come and have a conversation. If you think we do hold Jabberwockies and we're talking shit, come in and have a conversation. Come and see if you can find these, expose them to ourselves, right? That's the idea. That's what we want to be doing. Bring conversation. I'm looking forward to some conversations about certain things. What time are we at? Oh, it's only early. It's 11 o'clock. Is everyone all right with that? Has anyone got anything else? Anyone in the chat? I don't mind cutting it short or anything. Got some good things sorted and some good things planned. Okie dokie. Let me get a Buster song ready. Anyone got any? We'll do the Emma one. Advanced simplicity. This is what started it off, really. There's a few things that a lot of people have generated Jabberwockies around. We have the original conversation about a horizontal line and how you find a proof of a straight line. Well, perpendicular comes from that proof. You need the straight line first. We chose horizontal, so we do have a test. We do have some proofs, but this particular song is based around this argument. Okay, thanks for watching. We will be back at some point during the week, probably Friday, but we'll have to see how it goes. I might just do a short one in order to get some material together. Might see how it works. We'll see. Okay, thanks for watching. We'll be back definitely Friday. Free for all Friday. If not, sometime in the week. Thank you very much.
So let me give you a hypothetical. I want you to imagine a 6-mile long stretch of water. This water is straight and level and does not flow.
Advanced simplicity takes hold. You'll find the truth from things of old.
So let me give you a hypothetical. I want you to imagine a 6-mile long straight stretch of water. At each end of this straight stretch of water is a bridge. Point A, so you've got two bridges. Point B, this water is straight and level and does not flow. At each end of this water is a bridge. Point A, point B. At each bridge, there is a plumb bob hanging down to the water.
We are on the road,
Even altitude.
suspending judgment until the truth is known. You will find peace within.
Let me give you a hypothetical.
In the midst of all these troubled souls.
Now, on these vertical strings, can you imagine an even altitude? A point at an equal height above the surface of the water below.
Advanced simplicity takes hold.
An even
You'll
altitude.
find the truth from things of old.
And on these vertical strings, can you imagine 2 points? So let me give you a hypothetical. Can you imagine point A and even altitude at these points and point B? And on these vertical strings, we can establish a perpendicular and even altitude and call one point A and the other point B. 2 points. Point A, point B, even altitude.
We are on the road,
2 points.
suspending judgment until the truth is known.
Point A,
You will find peace within.
point B.
In the midst of all these troubled souls.
The points at an equal height above the surface of the water below. Point A, point B. Point A, even altitude. Point B.
There's no end game in mind.
Is the shortest distance between those 2 points?
It's only the truth that we seek to find.
We know the shortest distance
There's no end game in mind.
between 2 points is a straight
It's
line.
only the truth that we seek to find.
Now, here's the question I'm asking myself. How can the distance between these 2 points be anything other than horizontal? Horizontal. Horizontal.
Everyone must see it for
Horizontal.
themselves. The truth
2
is there
points.
for you to find.
And then ask yourself, and the water. Oh, fuck that up.